If you want a smarter and more scalable way to manage your marketing and retention efforts, you will love today's episode. Lawrence Neal here, and welcome back to High Intensity Business, your one-stop shop for growing your hit business and fueling your passion for high-intensity training. Today, we are welcoming back Connie, a web designer, digital strategist, podcast host, speaker, and educator. Her boutique web design agency, Pixality Design, works with fitness studio owners to create websites that are easily found, easy to update, and provide visitors with an exceptional online experience. Pixality have worked with over 300 fitness businesses, including several in the hit space, to produce some fantastic websites. So, Connie, welcome back. Great to see you.
Yeah, good to be back. Thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. So excited today. This is one of those topics that I like nerding out on, and sorry, something in the eye there. So I'm excited to get into it and really provide some value to the audience. So tell us how you're going to help my audience understand and decide on marketing software for their hit business in today's episode.
Yeah, email marketing software and marketing software these days can be really overwhelming. So we're going to just break it down and kind of look at the different options based on if you're a small business, if you're a big business, kind of where this whole industry is going and in the studio communications world. We're going to break it down and talk about what you need to know, what you need to look for, what you might need and what you might want to pass on as well. So hopefully we'll give a pretty good breakdown and people will feel confident going in with their kind of checklist on like, how do I choose the right one for my studio?
Yeah, I really appreciate the forethought that's gone into this because I think that's really valuable. Having a checklist, like you say, it can be overwhelming. There's so many choices. They change all the time, which is why, even when we did our scheduling software episode, you were like, Lawrence, this is going to be completely different in like a year because this software's always changing. Price points are changing, features, who's going to be in the top 3 changes like all the time. So like you say, having like a heuristic for choosing the right software for your needs is super helpful, right? So let's kick off with a little bit of a background, right? You want to start by talking about the evolution of fitness studio client communications?
Yeah. This is one thing that has really changed a lot in the last 5 years. I mean, we talked about studio scheduling softwares, and in general, studio scheduling softwares have, all pretty much figured out how to schedule both classes and appointments. So they all do generally the same thing. But fitness studio client communication softwares or email marketing platforms have really evolved in the last 5 years. So we started out, and what most people think of when they think of email marketing platforms are things like Constant Contact and MailChimp, where you're just sending email newsletters, like one-to-many email blasts once a month. Here's my newsletter, right? That's the classic, studio email communications. That was really what anyone did, 5+ years ago. Then we moved into this world where you could automate things, and so automate some conversation or some funnels, some email funnels, where someone could express interest with the lead form, they get an automatic reply. Maybe they get another follow-up 3 days later, and you're trying to move them through the buying process with just automated emails, right? That was kind of phase 2. We've passed that now too. Within the last few years, SMS or text communications mixed in with email communications has been in the norm for these platforms. So in particular, we're looking for two-way texting so that if they text back and say, I have a question, you as a personal trainer, you can reply back. So that's become more integral with email. It's not just email anymore. It's email and text. Then the last couple of years, we're adding in now, we're combining all that. There's automated sales, emails, texting based on the personalization of that person, that consumer's previous attendance, their purchases. If they've fallen off, they haven't been coming in very, recently the last month. So it's more personalized, automated, like 2 multi-ways of talking with people. And then, now in this year, for sure, every tech tool you've ever seen is adding some kind of AI component. So now they're trying to use AI to drive that personalization, to look into, the data that you have in your scheduling tool and to pick out the messaging that would be appropriate for that person based on their attendance and their purchases and everything. So that evolution has happened really pretty quickly in the last 5 years. A lot of that has changed. So what you're thinking, that I need an email marketing platform to send email newsletters, that's something that we need to reframe as like, what are the opportunities out there? You might still be in that camp and that's all you need to do, but there's so many more opportunities when it comes to client communications in general now, that's where all these tools have headed.
Cool. Thank you so much for the intro. So it's funny because as you were saying that, you were like, oh yeah, we did that and now we do this. And I'm like, no. Like most of my listeners probably stopped at the monthly newsletter, right?
Right.
Even myself, I think some of my audience think I'm like, sort of technologically capable, but I go as far as the email sequences and I don't do a great job of that, frankly. And that's where I end. I do no
Yeah.
SMS, anything like that, which is, yeah, I should be really. And I would even go as far as to say a lot of our listeners probably don't even do email newsletters like on a monthly or weekly basis. So I'm just aware, those listening, like, I don't want you guys to get overwhelmed. We are going to obviously like make this simple and like, you don't have to be able to implement all the stuff we're talking about today. Again, at the end of this podcast, you're going to have a checklist, a way to actually select some software that helps you start doing this stuff. And just a way of thinking about it too, which I think is what, you're going to be able to provide it, Connie. But it just made me laugh hearing you say that because I was like, probably most of us, my audience and myself, are right at the start of that process still. And yet there's all these opportunities to automate, SMS two-way, as you were saying, AI, all this stuff. So yeah, sorry, let's crack on and get to the next section here.
No, but yeah, I think that is a great segue into like what the next segment is because especially for hit businesses, your personal training, you're all about a high-end experience. There's one-on-one relationships that are built with your trainers. Like you may not want to go to that end of automation and, AI scaled, outreach and things. I wanted to kind of lay the landscape of the industry out first because if you're doing research and you start looking at tools, those are all the flashy stuff that they're going to say. We can do this and this and this. And it is kind of overwhelming. But then let's peel back a little bit and say that might not be for your business. If you think about the fitness industry in general, you might be, way towards the spectrum of like, I'm going to keep it simple. I'm going to keep it personal.
Yeah.
What kind of tool can enable me to run the business that I need to run for the brand that I have? So it's important to know all that exists because it's kind of the shiny object over here. And, the marketing people in this industry are absolutely going to, be saying, you must be doing this. I'm here to say you don't have to be. I want to make sure that you're not paying for something that you're not going to use that doesn't make sense with your brand too. So that's where in this conversation of, what marketing tool, what email, marketing tool is best for me. That's why this is such a huge spectrum. So you kind of have to start with like, what do you need to run the business that you want to run a year from now? I think that's the question that you start with. And yeah, one-on-one personal trainer, you might not need that much automations because you're not trying to scale really big numbers, but you probably want a little less admin time off of your list as a trainer, especially if you're a small team, right? So that's kind of the stuff we look at in this, like how personalized, how automated do you want to be? What things can you get off that would make your business better that could get off of your to-do list that you're doing manually right now? And, admin reminders, that canceling your appointments, reminder to schedule your appointments, that type of stuff, can often be done in your studio scheduling software. But those are stuff that I think pretty much anyone probably who's running a business could use, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So I think, if you like the first question to ask yourself is, how big is my business? How big do I want it to be in the next couple of years? Because you want to get a software that you can grow into in the next couple of years, not your like 10-year plan maybe, but like what's, something that I can grow into a little bit. And what do I see my business? How do I see it operating a year or two from now? What would I love to, smooth out in the client communications? What would I love to add? I think for most personal trainers, I think texting is something to look at if you're not doing it already. You might have your email newsletter, but that two-way texting communications, clients, consumers, people in general, we respond better to text than we do to email as far as conversations go. And if you want to keep it personal and high-end and concierge service, I think texting is a way to do that legally in a marketing space. I think a two-way texting tool would be worth adding in, but yeah, you could probably stop there for most personal trainers. But yeah, give it a thought about, where you need to be client communication wise in a year and a half to meet the goals for where your studio business is growing.
Yeah, that's great frame to think about this. So you've got here about the personalized automated scale. Do you want to touch on this a bit more? You talk about here. You've already mentioned it already. The small, maybe the solo operators, the one-on-one personal training operations, where they're, you might not know these names, Connie, but Doug Holland is quite well known in our space, and he does like 100+ sessions a week just himself. And he's,
Yeah.
famous for not using any software and just taking cash and all these things. It's a bit of a character, really good guy though. And so if that's your goal, right, then maybe you don't need this stuff. But kind of one of the points you made there is maybe you want to be a bit more efficient and take some of that load off, take some of that administration away, in which case it's going to still add value even in that context. But obviously the value increases the more complexity you have in terms of more trainers, more staff, more workouts, more things going on, etc. So
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And I'll give you an example. I go to Orange Theory and I have for almost 5 years now. And I fairly regularly go once or twice a week, on my membership, like pretty consistently for 5 years. The last 6 weeks or so, life happened,
I tell
travel,
you,
just really, I really didn't get in. My attendance definitely dropped off from what they were used to. I got a text, I've actually gotten two now, and from, hi, this is Lisa from, Orange Theory. We noticed you haven't been in recently. We miss you. Can we help you get scheduled for your next class? Like that to me as a consumer seemed like a very personal message. There's a name attached with it. I could write back and get a reply, but it was very like timely to what actually was happening. They, it wasn't just a like blanket marketing text, like, hey, let's get you in class or whatever. Like they noticed I wasn't in, right? So that could have been an actual just person who was very familiar with their members, who's like that triggered in their mind, like, oh, I haven't seen Connie. I doubt it, honestly, but that's a lot. I mean, like you said, the trainer with 100 people, it's a lot of people's schedules to keep track of, right? I don't know what technology Orange Theory uses, but I'm guessing that something flagged in their software that says, hey, Connie's dropped off her attendance patterns. Maybe you should reach out to her. And then maybe a real person sent that text to reach out to me.
that wouldn't surprise me. Yeah, if there's a trigger and then someone does a personal reach out, because personalization is always going to work better. It is a slightly scalable, but it does work better. Yeah, go ahead.
So I think having a tool that can do that research for you to like bring things to the front to your team, or even just you as the trainer to say, hey, reach out to Connie. She hasn't been in a while. Like that there, I think is really kind of maybe the sweet spot for this space where it's still every communication that goes out is a person to a person. And it's a very personal feel, but you're getting a little help in the background to like, identify, because it's hard to keep all that in your head.
Yeah,
right?
that's so interesting because
clients.
when we used to use MindBody at Optimus Strength, we would actually use the automated reminders. If someone didn't show for X number of days, they would get an automated email. But I think for a smaller business, and maybe even large business, I prefer your idea there, where it's like you just get a notification and then you personally reach out to that person.
Yeah.
That would make more sense in our kind of higher end premium service, I think. Does that make sense? Yeah. Cool.
Yeah. And then everything that's going out from your business. You have oversight into everything. And usually those, they'll pop up, but like we recommend you sending this type of message, and you can edit it or you can just send it how it does. But I think that's where this industry is going. You're going to see a lot more of those options as well. And that's all due to the help of AI. So AI feels really overwhelming and like, I don't need to do that in my small, boutique business, but those types of things can help you as the trainer do better.
And it's like a threshold, isn't it? Perhaps this is one way of thinking about it. It's like, look, if you have, I don't know, I'm throwing a random number out here, like 50 or 100 clients, maybe you can personalize all of those direct messages.
Yeah.
And then maybe when you go beyond a certain threshold, you have to automate some of this stuff or delegate it out to your team. But it's we'll let the audience decide how they want to manage that. So what's next?
Yeah. So let's get into actually how you choose the right marketing tool. Just some things to be aware of as you're out there looking at options, or even your schedulers. Like, we have this new tool, like trying to evaluate whether it's a good fit for you. Say absolutely identify where you are on that personalized automated spectrum, where you want to be, what feels comfortable for you, and what you want to grow into. So give some thought to that, kind of having an idea for your own business, where you are for that. And like we said, there's going to be people on this on this
Mm.
podcast that are like, I am scaling, I am growing, I have, multiple locations, multiple trainers. I need some help with this. And there's people that like, I'm happy to stay as a 1 to 3 trainer team. I don't need as much technology to help with this. So you're going to be different than the other person that's listening to this. So once you're clear on that, that would be kind of the first step. And then just like be aware of all the different features that all these tools are going to be showing at you. And then you can filter out like whether you need that or not. I mentioned two-way texting is a big one. If you're looking outside of just traditional, like I want to send emails, the next thing is texting. Some platforms will say, yes, we offer texting, but don't just stop there, dig a little bit deeper because there's a difference between we do text marketing communications and we have two-way texting. So for example, MindBody Marketing Suite, they say we offer texting. It is just one-way marketing text. There's not two-way conversations that can happen with that technology. So you're looking for two-way texting features. That would be the next thing I would look for outside of like, we can send basic emails. And then you might want to have some automated sequences. And particularly this gets more powerful when you can flip back and forth between texts and emails in the same sequence. And that's usually a feature that's included if you've got both of those. But at any point in those conversations, someone needs to be able to reply back to an email or a text and get a real person on the other end to reply back. So you kind of need to look at how that works. One of the things, like we said, if you're not even sending email newsletters, the traditional classic old school, I send an email newsletter every month can still be really effective if there's value in it for the client. So just make sure that your tool can still do that. That's a good place to start. And then this is where tools start to differentiate is the lead management tracking option. So a CRM goes hand in hand with your communications, right? So some of these tools are built basically as a CRM that has all these communication marketing tools. And if that's where you're heading, you're growing and you need help kind of managing all those leads too, that can be a really good add-on or really good foundation for the tool that you choose. So kind of all those different features, you may not need all of them, but those are all the big ones out there that fitness studios typically like, depending on their size.
Just one question. That was great on that. You were saying obviously about, a lot of these tools will do multiple mediums, text, emails, even in-app notifications. The prospect and client could be getting all of these. Alex Hormozy did a video recently, it's probably that recent actually, but he was trying to make the case that, we feel we are annoying maybe it's actually different with customers versus prospects. So with prospects, he made the case that a lot of people feel they're annoying their prospects of all this advertising and marketing, but the reality is they're not even seeing it. Yeah. And the example he gave is he put all this money behind his $100 million leads book launch. And then he walked around the street and got stopped by 10 people and none of them knew he even had a book coming out. And he put all this marketing out, organic content paid, all this email stuff. And so from an advertising point of view, consumers spread so thin, they're getting so many, messages. They might even not even associate you with your core offer. So you probably can't overdo it almost, you could say. So that's an important point because I think a lot of us are worried about that. That probably changes when they're a client, right? Because if they're getting notifications from apps, texts, and emails, should we be concerned about, sending them too much stuff? And I guess they'll have the ability to modify their notifications in their settings of whatever it is whatever client scheduling software that you're using.
Yeah. I think it all comes down to the question of how relevant that particular piece of messaging is to that person.
Right, yeah.
So you can't just throw, texts and emails at them every other day because they'll just ignore them in general, or they'll turn off their, unsubscribe or turn off their notifications from you because they're not going to filter through all of that. But in my case, you don't get a text from that business for, a year and a half, and then you get one and you're like, oh, okay, this was personal to me, or this is really relevant to me. So I think, with retention marketing specifically, less, the default is kind of less, let them be. But then when there is something very, personal and relevant to them, that's when you send them something, and then they're going to pay attention because they are a client and they like you already. So I think kind of some different philosophies on whether they're leads or whether they're, committed members already.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. What you're saying in terms of like the message having a real reason, like a good trigger for it. I guess I'm just trying to understand, like, if you're doing like internal marketing as well, they're receiving other messages. It's like, how much is too much? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you got the behavioral stuff, but then you got the internal marketing, internal announcements. I don't know, news about staff. Like, do you have a view on like how much is too much in respect to all of that for clients specifically?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I think that's where the monthly newsletter or
Mhm.
social media kind of comes into play for like general announcements and stuff.
Right.
People might not read your monthly newsletter, but if they have a question about like, oh, what are their holiday hours, they might go back and look at your latest newsletter if you regularly put that stuff in there. So I think a more typical cadence on that type of stuff can be helpful because then it helps people know what to expect, where to find that content. And then I think the more personalized like outreach retention stuff comes from, more based on the person's actual participation in the
Yeah.
in
Well said. Yeah, that makes complete sense. So where are we going now? Marketing tool checklist. Is that where we are?
yeah. Yeah, I think so. I think the last tip I had before you go
Oh
into
yeah.
kind of like looking at actual platforms is there are tools out there that are for like all the industries. And then there are some tools that are more industry specific for the fitness industry. The advantage of picking a tool that's niche to this industry is you're going to get some, pre-built automations. You're going to get some templates and some connectors that are already there for things that you would want to do. You can absolutely use, tools that are not just for this industry. But you're probably going to have to build some things from scratch. So that's just kind of something to keep in
Yeah.
mind as you start looking at actual tools that we're going to do next.
So just to clarify, templates being like email templates, text templates that are like specific to your industry, and then connectors being stuff like is it like Zapier triggers? That's
Yeah.
gonna or connections to other software that's specific to your business that will just help things be smoother.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. So like
Yeah.
maybe if you're running like Facebook lead form ads, so you're getting people's, you're advertising your first session free on Facebook. People put their information into a form on Facebook. You could have a connection between that and that could go right into your marketing tool or
Mhm.
your CRM. And so kind of moving information between two. And yeah, I usually do that with Zapier, which we'll talk about, I think, a little
Yeah.
bit.
Cool.
But yeah, you get like that kind of like connection might already be a pre-built thing where it's a lot easier for you. You don't have to set it up. So,
Yeah. Good point. All right.
all right. Okay. So, how do you choose the right marketing tool for you? Here's the checklist. Number one, start with your scheduling software tool. So, is there a built-in marketing suite with your scheduler? That is question number one when we start talking about marketing tools. Because as we've been discussing this whole podcast, marketing communications has evolved so much that everything's more personalized and automated. And all of that relies heavily on your scheduler talking to that marketing tool and as closely as they can, because you need to be able to dip in and pull that information about when was Connie's last session? How many times does she come on average a month? You need that data, and you're only going to get that in your scheduling tool. So if your scheduling tool offers a marketing suite, start with that. Use that.
Mhm.
If there's, if it passes that initial checklist of all the things that, you can do with it, send newsletters as two-way texting, whatever you decide is important for your studio, I would start with that. Moments and Walla, those are two scheduling softwares I believe we talked about in the last episode. They do have built-in options. Those are kind of the pandemic startups, the newer tools. Pretty much any like newer tool is building this with this built in now, because as we're seeing, this is where the industry is heading.
Yeah.
Some legacy tools. MindBody does have a built-in marketing suite, but like I mentioned, it doesn't do two-way texting. So that would disqualify it for me if I was evaluating that. But if your scheduling tool has a marketing suite, start with that. That's going to be the easiest thing for you to integrate. Everything's going to talk really nicely together. And it was designed for your business.
Today's episode is sponsored by Imagine Strength, the game changer in safe, simple, and effective high-intensity training machines. When it comes to HIIT, Imagine Strength is your go-to for intelligently designed, efficient, and affordable equipment. Their team is passionate about HIIT and it shows in every piece they craft. So why are Imagine Strength the right choice? Number one, they tailor-make their equipment for hit studios. Number two, they provide cost-effective solutions for your business. And number three, they are committed to ongoing innovation and refinement. Ready to take your hit business to the next level? Visit imaginestrength.com to discuss your needs and find the perfect gear for your studio. Join the hit revolution of Imagine Strength and transform your workout experience today.
Let's go.
Yeah, this is a great point. Like, I know Moments is quite popular right now among our colleagues in high intensity training. A couple have moved over to that recently. And the fact that that has, obviously that's the scheduling software and marketing built into one is attractive. I know there's other potential issues with Moments, and it's not right for every business. It depends on your goals and how big you want to scale, which you touched on our last podcast. But I know you're right. So when you say that's where the industry is going, you mean there's more kind of like these single platforms that are doing lots of things, as opposed to people having to, buy whatever 5 or 6 tools and have them try and talk to each other.
Yeah, and we're seeing that with those tools like Moments. It's just, I think it's because, everything needs to be so interlinked now that it's not like it's a separate, you can't choose that marketing tool in isolation anymore. And then also, I think all these newer companies are seeing that as a big differentiator for one, like, okay, it is all built in one, and then less risk as well. We've seen that in the last year with, BrandBot used to be a real popular email marketing tool with MindBody. They were purchased by a competitor, and so that integration is not being kept up. And so there's things that, like, it's kind of a little risky when you start kind of trying to mix and match and plug things in. So I think these businesses like Moments are seeing that as a kind of a liability. And so they're like, nope, we're just going to build it ourselves and not rely on another company to provide what is being seen as a real critical piece of what schedulers need to do these days.
I'm actually, you got me thinking like I'm seeing this industry wide, right? So, obviously you're part of our school community for high intensity business, and that's replaced so many tools in one swoop for me, right? It replaced lead pages, which is sales page software. It replaced payment cart software, and obviously the community software, all in one, right? And there's probably other things I'm going to do away with as well. So that trend seems to be happening all over the place. I guess it makes sense. It simplifies things.
Yeah, I mean, everyone wants an all-in-one solution, and I think the more niche, industry specific the tool that you can get, the more that can be actually something that's realistic. So, I think you're going to continue to see that, and particularly in this space when it comes to marketing and scheduling, they just go hand in hand.
Cool. So, where are we up to next? You talked about LoopSpark already, did you? If no,
I haven't. That's my next one.
Sorry.
That's all right. Yeah. So definitely look first if you have a marketing suite with your scheduler. If you do not have a marketing suite or a good marketing suite option that comes along as an option with your scheduler, now you need to look at what integrates with your scheduler. This is the second best option. So it might not be the actual same tool, but it has a really tight integration. For this tool called LoopSpark is the one that I would look at first. It is built for the fitness industry, so it has all that kind of niche content in it. It integrates with MindBody, Pike 13, Mariana Tech, Fit Degree. So those are kind of some other industry scheduling softwares if you happen to be on any one of those. It also has really good Zapier endpoints. So you can move information. What Zapier does is it moves information from one tool to another. So it's one of those kind of, we call a third-party tool where it's not actually owned by a scheduling software, but it works well with a lot of them. LoopSpark is a CRM. It's got all the things that we talked about already. It's the most solid tool that I've found that you can plug into a lot of different places in this industry.
But it has no scheduling capability.
Correct. It is not a scheduler. Yeah.
What about Go High Level? That's pretty popular right now. Is that not on your list?
You know what? It is really popular, and that would be another one that would probably be in this category that would integrate well with other things. I have not. It tends to be, it's pretty complicated, but it's popular too in this industry. So, I think that would definitely be one to look at. I'm not as familiar with it.
So is LoopSpark, does it trump Go High Level for any reason, or are you just more familiar with LoopSpark? I'm just curious.
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm just more familiar with Loop Spark. I'm not sure.
Okay.
So I would put Loop, yeah, maybe evaluate Loop Spark and Go High Level, those two, if
Okay.
you're in
Just
this
because I'm
space.
hearing like I'm moving over to it, and
Oh, yeah.
I see so many people enjoying it in other industries, but also Mike Lebowski, who's in our community and a well-known hit business owner, as runs Pure Physique. He's absolutely obsessed with Go High Level, and
Yeah.
he'll like promote them at every opportunity. So, and then when you know what it's like when you hear a software enough, you're like, okay, I've got to look at this now. Like,
Yeah.
so,
Yeah.
yeah, so that's
What do you think so
interesting.
far? Are you getting set up and
Well,
everything?
I've only literally just started importing contacts over, but the benefit, not to side quest too much here, but the benefit for me is a mentor that I work with has kind of uploaded a lot, like you were saying about pre-made templates specific to my purpose. So that's very useful and very
Yeah.
valuable. And all the integrations are done for me. I'm not, again, like I wouldn't be an overly technical person. Like I can learn a tool, and like anyone, I can sit down and be patient and get into something, but it's not I wouldn't say it's my strength. You know, I
Yeah.
get quickly frustrated with stuff like that, and I wouldn't have a great deal of patience. Something I'm working on, but yeah, that to me is valuable. And it would be, I guess, many of my audience, if they can, purchase a tool that's going to have a lot of these pre-built templates, automations, that's going to be very helpful, isn't it? So
Yeah. Yeah. And I bet I'll have to look into it because I bet there are some people who are selling kind of pre-built templates and everything for Go High Level since
right,
it's
yeah, for
industry
fitness,
specific
right?
too.
Good,
Yeah.
good point. Good point. Maybe Mike can comment on that actually. Yeah, okay. So, but you made a good point there. Loop Spark, integrates with MindBody, Plug 13, Mariana Tech, Fit Degree, etc., which are popular software scheduling options. And we don't know that for
Hmm.
Go High Level, so we'll just caveat that we're not sure.
Yeah.
Um, so where are we now? Number 3, are we? Last
3.
option.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep. Yep. Okay. So if your scheduler doesn't include it and you don't have,
Okay.
your scheduler says, no, we don't really integrate with one, then your last option is you kind of build it yourself with Zapier. And we've talked about Zapier a little bit, but it's a paid tool in most cases, connects apps, moves information between them. You can basically kind of build out any flows that you need manually yourself. We're getting a little more like advanced, but if you have a tool that you love,
Yeah.
like HubSpot. I know some people use Salesforce, some of those bigger tools that are not industry specific. You can connect oftentimes your scheduling software with and say, I had a new client in, my scheduling software, create a new, welcome sequence and kick it off in HubSpot, something like that. You could use Zapier as the kind of in between. I put this as the last option. It's a little more complex, but for those who like really they want to kind of get in there and build their own stuff, it's an option. I would look for tools that have a lot of Zapier endpoints if that's the case. Those ones
And
that
most
I,
do, don't
mentioned.
they? Most
Yeah,
do,
I
most
mean,
scheduling softwares
um,
or not?
not most scheduling softwares actually.
Oh,
Some of the newer ones do. Some scheduling softwares like MindBody don't even have a Zapier
no
endpoint at
way.
all.
Because
Yeah,
they just want to have everything in the one, like,
yeah, yeah.
even though they don't do the
Um,
two-way texting. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So you get kind of boxed into a corner, like with having to use
Yeah.
their own tool. And so you'll see that with the ones particularly that had their own tool. They had not seen it as a priority to make the Zapier endpoints. Sometimes they'll have like one, like move contact data over, but not real flexible options there. So you really just have to look at it. The schedulers usually, if you go to the scheduling tools websites, they usually have a tab that's like integrates with, and if they mention
Yeah.
Zapier, just kind of know that gives you some more options for using different tools for different things. So
Yeah, because I think a lot of people will be using like MailChimp, for instance, which you're saying that something like MailChimp probably doesn't integrate seamlessly with most scheduling softwares. You would need Zapier to get them to talk to each other. Yeah.
right,
So,
yeah,
you know, I find I can learn Zapier and I am learning it, but I even find it challenging. So I think a lot of my audience will find it challenging. Are there consultants that you recommend? I mean, I know you do some of your stuff yourself. Maybe you are a consultant for this as well. But what would you recommend people do if they would rather have a done for you or done with you service to help them? They've got, scheduling and email software doesn't talk to each other and they want someone to help with the whole
yeah.
Zapier bit. Yeah.
Yeah, I would start with, there are consultants that can do that, and I can help on an hourly rate, but
Okay.
I would start with, your scheduling tool. That's really kind of the source for, they either probably have like tutorials or they might even have like consultants that work with that scheduling tool that they can recommend. Oftentimes they'll have a page on their site that's like, consultants that can help with this. Sometimes if you actually ask their support, they might have a consultant that they recommend that is really familiar with the options with that specific tool. So there's so many different tools out there, but a lot of scheduling tools these days have kind of a core group of consultants that they know can work well with the tool. So I'd
Yeah,
start
because they
with the
must get the
scheduling.
questions so much, right? So that's a really
Yeah.
good point. Yeah, cool. All right. So what are we on to now? Marketing tool recommendations.
Yeah, this is just kind of a summary of everything kind of I've talked about
Yeah.
with like, here's the tools. So, Moments Wallet, they have good marketing suites. So if you're using those softwares, start there. The pricing on those isn't published, but it's usually bundled with the core software. So you just kind of need to ask what the pricing structure is there.
Hang on, what does that
LoopSpark,
mean? That you'll probably have to pay a little bit more to get access to the marketing suite?
right. Yeah.
Right.
They
Okay.
often have like the core, there's different pricing levels, but the core
Yeah.
software, if you just want scheduling, and then if you want the marketing suite, it's an extra 200 a month or something.
Well, that's quite significant. That's a lot, isn't
Yeah,
it?
a lot of these. Yeah. I mean, if
Yeah.
you get into, we'll talk about the cheaper ones in a second, but if you get into these tools that are texting, email, automations, some
It's just an
AI,
issue.
some
Yeah.
CRM, like it is a significant software expense. No matter if, go high level, LoopSpark, all these built-in ones, it is a significant investment
Yeah.
in operating.
Yeah. And that's all part of the decision process, isn't it? Okay. So yeah, continue.
Yeah. So yeah, then you have the Loopspark or Go High Level. It seems like those are the two to check out if you
Mhm.
want to find something that integrates with your scheduling software. I think those two have good reputations. And then outside of that, if you're like, okay, Connie and Lawrence, this is way too much. This is way overwhelming. I don't need any of that stuff, right? Let's peel it back a little
They've
bit.
already
Like
like deleted the podcast.
they're
and all
not
this.
even listening anymore. Um, but you need a basic communication tool. And when we look at the laws in 2024, the email deliverability requirements that are being enforced in people's inboxes, if you want to communicate in a marketing sense with people, just general consumers, you need some type of tool. And so that's where just start with the old school newsletters. It's like I send a monthly newsletter twice a month. I provide valuable content and reminders about the studio. Even if people are opening those email newsletters, they're still seeing it in your inbox and they're being reminded that you exist and that you're a fitness option for them. So if that's where you're at in this whole spectrum, just start with that. MailChimp is popular and it's cheap, and you're not going to be paying for all that extra stuff that we just talked about that's put you up in the $200 a month range. MailChimp is free up to 500
I didn't know
contacts.
that. Free up to 500 contacts. That's interesting.
Yeah. You can
That's a good deal.
start playing around with it. Yeah.
Because a lot of our colleagues won't have like many more people than that, or some will have under that. So that's a
Yeah.
good start. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then you pay with MailChimp based on the size of your contact list. So, the next jump up, I think I saw 1,500 contacts. So you're not paying as much as a giant company. You're paying kind of something that's relative to the size.
How do you feel about MailChimp versus like ActiveCampaign? I use ActiveCampaign now and I'm moving away from it to go high level, but what's your thoughts about
Yeah.
ActiveCampaign?
ActiveCampaign is pretty powerful too. I found it a little harder for people to navigate around and build things out, maybe because it's MailChimp is built more for the non-techie, like
Oh, is it?
non-marketing.
Okay.
I feel like, I mean, it has a lot of capabilities, but I just feel like the interface when you're in it is a little more welcoming than something like an active
Oh,
campaign.
I should have gone for that then. And MailChimp
know.
does all the email sequences and automations as well.
They do have that option.
Because they didn't
Yeah,
before. I think ActiveCampaign came out with a lot of that, and then the rest of the lads,
Yeah.
Upgraded.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. ActiveCampaign was, I think, one of like the first who really got on all of that. MailChimp does now too. Of course, you start paying for things when you start using that type of stuff.
Okay, Kevin.
Yeah, for sure. Constant Contact's another one that people in this industry have used a lot. It's still pretty solid for sending out email newsletters. Like any of those, I think are pretty interchangeable these days. They're all going to be run you maybe $50 or less a month, depending on the size. But if you're sending out emails, like whatever one you're comfortable in is totally fine. It's going to keep you legal. You're going to be able to design the emails and enough that it looks like your brand. There's not a huge differentiator between those anymore.
Got it. All right. We're on email
Um,
deliverability now, are we?
yeah, we can talk about that. Let's see. Yeah.
Don't let me
So
skip ahead if there's something more important I've missed.
no,
Yeah.
no, I think I just, talking about, whether you need the CRM, the lead management piece, a spreadsheet for most studios, for most personal training businesses of tracking your leads and, kind of keeping track of how much you're communicating with them, an old school like Google Sheet or a spreadsheet might be all you need there. So, if you're
Yeah.
ready to graduate kind of to something who you're doing that on an online platform, that's where some of these can come in handy. But, don't discount the, like, I have, a basic email platform like MailChimp or Constant Contact and a good old spreadsheet, and it's working just fine for me. I see that working really well for a lot of personal training studios. So you
100%.
can just go there. You can stay there, right?
Yeah, this is so down to personal preference. There's so many different levels to this, isn't there? So the last thing I'd want to, and I think you've done a great job of doing this for me, or for us, is to make the audience feel like they have to be upgrading to this. That's not what we're saying. It's like these are just
Yeah.
different options depending on what your goals are, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I just want
Yeah.
people to be aware of, what the industry has got now and
Yeah.
what's available out there. And it may or may not work for you, but it's something that's evolving pretty rapidly in this industry. So
Yeah, of course.
doesn't mean you have to go along with it though.
No, absolutely. And there's plenty that have no interest in doing just fine, actually, as well. All right. So email deliverability requirements in 2024. Yeah.
Yeah. So you might, the listeners might have gotten a little wind of this earlier in the year. Some people might have totally not, this has just passed them by and they didn't hear about this. But in 2024, earlier in the year, Google and Yahoo both have cracked down on people sending emails from domains that they don't own. So these are like the spammy actors out there. This is really trying to get, me and you and just the general consumer getting less spam emails in our inbox. Because of that, because they've really cracked down on that. And this kind of went into play, I think, April, May of 2024. As a legitimate business owner, you need to do some things to prove to Google and Yahoo that you do own your domain and you can send marketing emails. If you don't, if you've noticed like your emails landing in spam, this is why. Like things are changed and things are getting cracked down a little bit this year. So this applies to wherever you're sending personal emails from your @mybusiness.com email domain. So your personal emails to people, any schedulers that come, schedule email notifications that come from your scheduler that come from your own domain. If it comes from mindbodyonline.com, you don't have to worry about it. But and then your email marketing platform as well. So since we're talking about email software, I wanted to make sure that we kind of hit on this because it is in the news this year. This is also why you can't send mass marketing emails from a free, inbox anymore.
You
You
used to be able
can't send
to,
it
right?
from
There was a feature with Gmail. What was it called? Like mass something? What was it?
Yeah. Legally, I don't
GMAS,
think
was
you've
it?
ever,
Oh,
legally,
right.
I don't think you've ever really been able to send marketing emails mass wise, but you used to be able to send like through MailChimp, through Constant Contact, through those. You used to be able to send from a @gmail.com or an
Okay.
yahoo.com. And you can't do that anymore. You have to have a domain that's like a business domain. So a domain an email address that you pay for, basically.
So, because I know there'll be a lot of people listening who will just have an at gmail.com. No. Yeah. Yeah, they have the Gmail address, sorry, which is the free one, sorry. And you're saying the deliverability on that is much worse, especially if it's,
Yes.
okay, even a single email, like sending
Well, if you were,
one-on-one.
no, if
Okay.
you're emailing just one-to-one, like personal communications, no, like that is fine. But if it's in the category of marketing
Got it.
emails, there's some rules about whether a business can send marketing emails from, mass from a personal inbox.
Okay.
Certainly a lot of these tools will require you to have a branded domain to send from these days and not, a personal one. Some of them may still let you, but it's moving towards the fact that basically they want professional domains. If you're sending marketing emails from a business, they want it to be, with a domain email. They're just trying to like crack down from like the spammy stuff of like.
Yeah, I know someone who does this, and now I need to go and email them immediately after this podcast. Because I think they were doing it where they were blind copying or something, like loads of people. And now I'm
Yeah.
thinking that actually might just go straight to spam,
Yeah.
in terms of trying to, find workarounds to do it for a free email address. So this is really valuable. And you have to, as well as owning a domain, right? So I have, highintensitybusiness.com. So all my emails are at high intensity business. Do you need to do anything else in the back end on the domain? Like, I don't know, protection, SSL, anything else that will improve email deliverability as well?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
And that has been really the tasks that have come out this year. And it's different for every platform that you're sending from. But say you're sending your marketing emails from ActiveCampaign. ActiveCampaign should have some instructions for you. You need to add this to your domain to authenticate. Some of them, and maybe ActiveCampaign is one that's been doing it for a while. But yeah, if you've gotten those emails this year saying you need to add this to your domain records, it's like CNAME records, DMARC, DKIM, those type of things. Don't ignore that. I guess a lot of people are like, am I going to ignore that? But it is important.
Yeah, you just reminded me. So ActiveCampaign flagged that. And obviously I went to work, and I just thank a guy I work with called Mike, who actually emailed me and said, "Do you need to do this, Lawrence?" But I think just to put everyone's mind at ease, if you're getting software or you have software for email marketing, it's likely that you were flagged to make that change, right? What's a way that they can just, that the audience can just double check that? What would they look for again?
Yeah, if you use a Google inbox and you open up one of your emails, say you sent an email newsletter, make sure yourself is on the list. So you get that like you would a consumer. If you go into a Google inbox, I'd have to look at where it is, but it's like the 3 dots, and you can say show original or something, so show original email. And then up at the top, you'll see like DKIM, SPF, you'll see some things like that, and it'll either show pass or fail. At this point, probably if you're getting it, it's going to show pass, but you can also see what domain it's passing on. So they might be sending from, like the Mind Body Online domain, which is fine. Now that's not your responsibility to authenticate, but all that to say, if you've noticed your stuff's going to spam more, if clients aren't getting your communications, this is something to ask your tech person, whoever works, with you. Do I need to, or the support for your email marketing platform should be able to point you in the right direction too.
That's the right answer, isn't it? It's to talk to support and have them. I mean, these days, software support's very good. I mean, a lot of these companies will do a Loom for you, like a Loom video. They record their screenshots. I just find support has got better and better in terms of these services, because it's a real competitive advantage if they do have great support, isn't it?
And this is something that everyone's had to deal with this year. So not fun, not on anyone's 2024 wish list, but
I found it very easy for me. Like it was like, I've just drawn all over my face. It just, as soon as it was pointed out to me, it took me like 2 seconds to make the change. So
and different platforms give better instructions than others. So it's just something you have to do, but in the long run, it's going to make people's inboxes better, and hopefully will help the real legit businesses communications actually show up in inboxes.
Yeah.
So we like it in the long run.
Yes, exactly. Yes, it's a good thing. Are we done? Have we covered every bullet? I think we have.
That's everything I needed to say.
Great. No, you were great. Thank you for preparing this. This was really useful. Hopefully the audience found it useful in terms of how they think about email marketing tools in relation to the rest of their business or schedule. I think you did a great job explaining, look, understand your goals, understand your vision for your business, and use that to guide. Don't just blindly start looking at tools, right?
Right.
And you've narrowed down. I know it's, tools change, and, we're recording this October 2024, and might be a very different answer in March 2025. I don't know, but probably not over that short a time frame. But all the while, I think the point is like there'll be new tools, but use the advice, the heuristic that we've talked about today to help pick the right tool for your business. So Connie, thank you so much as always for making the time. I'm really glad we got that done in under an hour, and because I can butt in too much sometimes. So where are we sending people? Is it pixalitydesign.com to find out more about you? and how they
Yep,
can...
pixalitydesign.com is where you can find out about my business. And then I'm also recording for season 2 of my podcast, the Boutique Fitness Marketing Podcast. So you can check me out over there as well.
Awesome. And just for completeness, so pixalitydesign.com, website design, but you also do consultations on stuff we talked about today, a little bit of email software help and building websites, and actually you might, if someone doesn't want to do a whole redesign, you can actually work with them if they're using Squarespace, isn't it? Your favorite software for that. SEO as well. Am I missing anything out that you have expertise into?
Yep. Brand design, a little bit of copywriting. But yeah, there's a consulting tab at the top of my website. So if you just want to book a paid consulting call, we can jump into your site if it's on Squarespace. I'm happy to do that. And then I'm also in your community. So if people join your community, they can tag me and ask questions there too.
And they get a discount as well, don't they, Connie, if they're in the high intensity business community?
Yes, on consulting calls. Yeah.
That's right. And you can find out more about that, highintensitybusiness.com/school. Thanks again for listening. And thank you, Connie, for making the time. And this is Lawrence with High Intensity Business, and we will talk to you soon. This episode is brought to you by Imagine Strength, your go-to for safe, simple, and effective high-intensity training equipment. Growing a successful high-intensity training business requires workout equipment that's not only high quality, but also intelligently designed to fit the unique needs of your studio. And that's where Imagine Strength comes in. Drawing on the wisdom of the legendary Arthur Jones, Imagine Strength has crafted a groundbreaking line of fitness equipment that's as affordable as it is efficient, giving your studio the upgrade it needs without breaking the bank. The team at Imagine Strength breathes HIIT. Their passion for high-intensity training shines through in their designs, which they've consistently refined and innovated for optimum effectiveness and user experience. From my personal experience at Rec, I can attest to the careful consideration and craftsmanship that goes into every single piece. My Imagine Strength workout was absolutely brutal, in a good way, of course. Now, what makes Imagine Strength truly stand out? They have innovative equipment tailored for the unique needs of HIIT studios, affordable and efficient designs, lowering the barriers to entry for a HIIT business, continuous innovation and refinement ensuring your studio stays ahead of the curve. Founder Jeff Turner and his team are dedicated to moving the HIIT industry forward and making strength training accessible to more people than ever before. Here's how you get started. Number 1, visit imaginestrength.com. Number 2, discuss your specific needs with the team. And number 3, select the equipment that will propel your business to the next level. Head to imaginestrength.com today and give your HIIT business the Imagine Strength edge. Be part of the HIIT revolution and see firsthand how their unique equipment can transform your studio's workout experience. Elevate your HIIT business with Imagine Strength. Let's go.